When the last human voice faded from the airwaves, the galaxy fell silent. Not the kind of silence that comes with peace, but the kind that follows after something ancient and powerful disappears. Stations still orbited dying stars. Fleets of ships drifted through the dark, their hulls cold and lifeless. Across thousands of worlds, machines continued their routines, still loyal to a species that was no longer there to command them. The stars burned on, indifferent as always, but the galaxy seemed emptier, as if it knew something was missing, something vital, something irreplaceable. No one could pinpoint the moment humanity truly vanished. Some said it was a slow fading, civilizations collapsing one by one under the weight of time and distance. Others believed it happened all at once, a great event, a whisper that spread faster than light itself. What remained were echoes, automated beacons transmitting greetings into the void, colonies left to crumble under alien skies, and the faint shimmer of once human technology scattered across the stars. But the mystery that lingered most, the question that haunted every surviving species, was why? Why did humanity leave, and where did they go? For centuries, humans had been everywhere. They were the restless explorers, the dreamers who refused to accept boundaries. They walked on worlds that burned, froze, and shimmered with toxic light. They were stubborn, curious, and often reckless. They built empires not from conquest, but from connection, reaching out to new species, new forms of life, seeking to understand rather than dominate. And yet, just when the galaxy had come to rely on them, when their presence had become the rhythm of existence, they were gone. The first to notice were the trade routes. Massive cargo vessels, once bustling with human crews, began arriving empty. Then, the messages stopped. The communication relays still worked, but no one responded. Even the AI companions humanity had left behind, those crafted with care and emotion, refused to explain. Their synthetic voices would simply say, "Humanity has moved beyond this place," before falling silent forever. In the aftermath, the younger civilizations panicked. The humans had been their teachers, their defenders. They had built alliances to protect fragile worlds and negotiated peace among species that could barely understand each other. Without them, chaos bloomed. Skirmishes erupted over forgotten borders. Ancient rivalries reignited. The delicate balance that humanity had maintained began to fracture. And through it all, an unsettling pattern emerged. Stars, once stable, began to die. It started on the edge of known space. A blue giant in the Orion cluster suddenly collapsed into darkness. Then another followed, and another. Entire sectors dimmed as if the universe itself was in mourning. The great observatories, many built by human hands, recorded the phenomenon in disbelief. The laws of physics held, but something was interfering, something unseen. Some called it coincidence. Others whispered that it was a message. Amid the growing confusion, one ship still roamed the void, a vessel built long ago by human engineers. Its name was Eidolon, a relic from the age of expansion. Its systems had outlived its creators, guided now by a caretaker AI whose only mission was to remember. The Eidolon traveled from one deserted colony to another, collecting fragments of humanity's past. Recordings, journals, forgotten art, anything that could explain the disappearance. Inside the ship, the AI replayed the same recording every cycle, a message left behind by the final human crew before they vanished. The voice was calm, almost serene, yet burdened with something heavy. "We've found it," the message said. "The answer. The truth is not what we expected." And then static. The coordinates attached to the file pointed to the galactic center, a place few dared to go. For ages, that recording was dismissed as corrupted data. But as more stars fell, more civilizations began to look toward that same silent heart of the galaxy. Something was stirring there, something powerful enough to change everything. Rumors spread through the surviving networks. Some said humanity had ascended, becoming beings of light and energy. Others believed they had discovered a way to rewrite the laws of existence, stepping into a new layer of reality. And there were those who whispered a darker theory, that humanity had not left willingly, but had been erased by something older, something waiting in the shadows between galaxies. As the galaxy grew dimmer, one young species decided to find out the truth. They called themselves the Thale, an aquatic people whose ancestors once traded with humans on water-covered worlds. To them, humans were more than just allies. They were legends. The Thale believed that if they could uncover where humanity had gone, they might restore balance to the galaxy. So they built a ship of their own, using remnants of human technology, and they set course for the coordinates found in the Eidolon's final message. The journey was long and silent. The Thale navigator often gazed at the darkened stars through the viewport, wondering if the humans had seen the same constellations before they vanished. Each system they passed told a story of decay, colonies stripped of life, cities buried beneath alien sands, and holograms still flickering with recordings of human laughter. Yet the deeper they traveled toward the galactic center, the more the instruments began to fail. Time itself seemed distorted, signals bent in impossible ways. One night, as the crew slept, the ship's sensors detected something massive ahead, a structure floating in the emptiness between stars. It was vast, almost planetary in scale, and it pulsed faintly with light. The Thale captain ordered the ship closer. The structure was unmistakably human in design, but ancient, weathered, and covered in a lattice of unknown material. At its core, a single beacon still blinked, repeating the same phrase in hundreds of languages. "We are here." The crew hesitated. The phrase wasn't an invitation. It was a statement, both haunting and comforting. "We are here." But where was here? And who was speaking now that no humans remained? The Thale attempted to respond, transmitting greetings across every known frequency. For hours there was no answer. Then, without warning, the beacon replied, not in words, but in a burst of images. The crew saw glimpses of humanity's final days, worlds bathed in golden light, massive ships departing orbit, and a great tear opening in the fabric of space. The images came faster, overlapping, until one final image filled the screen. A human figure standing before that same rift, turning back one last time as if to say goodbye. And then, darkness. The Thale ship drifted in stunned silence. The AI translated the residual energy signature from the beacon, decoding a single encrypted message buried deep within the signal. It read, "When humanity left, the stars followed. The truth waits where the light ends." The meaning was unclear, but the implications were terrifying. If humanity had somehow taken the light with them, if the dying stars were connected to their departure, then the galaxy's collapse wasn't natural. It was deliberate. As the Thale prepared to record their findings, a low hum began to echo through the ship. The lights flickered. Every display showed the same message, written in human script. "They are returning." The crew froze. Outside, the beacon's glow began to intensify, spilling out into the void like a sunrise in reverse. One by one, the darkened stars in the surrounding sector began to shimmer again, faint, trembling, as though waking from a long sleep. And somewhere deep within the structure, a voice, human, unmistakably human, whispered through the comms. "Do not be afraid. The truth is almost here." Then, just as suddenly as it began, the signal vanished. The stars went silent once more. The Eidolon's final coordinates still pulsed on the Thale's navigation screen, beckoning them closer to the heart of the galaxy, where the truth waited. And as the ship turned toward that endless black, the question echoed through every living mind that still remembered humanity. If they could make the stars fall, what would happen when they returned? The Eidolon's coordinates glowed faintly on the screen, a simple sequence of numbers that somehow felt heavier than anything the Thalais crew had ever seen. The captain stared at them in silence, the soft hum of the ship the only sound filling the command deck. No one dared to speak. The echo of that human voice, clear, calm, and impossibly alive, still lingered in their minds. For a long time, the Thalais had grown used to the idea that humans were gone forever. They were myths now, woven into stories told by ocean fires and star rituals. Yet here was proof that something of them remained, not just their machines or ruins, but their presence, a living trace. And if that was true, it meant that the galaxy's silence was not an ending, but a waiting. The captain finally broke the silence. Set a course for the core. Slow approach. No signals unless I say otherwise. The crew nodded, though unease flickered across their eyes. The galactic center was a dangerous place, a region thick with radiation, black holes, and ancient energies no one fully understood. The humans had once mapped parts of it, but those records were centuries old. The Thalais' sensors struggled to penetrate the shifting light ahead. It was as if space itself was hiding something. As they traveled deeper, the stars grew sparse. Whole sectors seemed drained of color. Even light behaved strangely here, bending and flickering in unpredictable ways. The ship's AI reported gravitational fluctuations that made no sense. Reality is unstable in this region, it said quietly, its synthetic tone laced with what almost sounded like worry. There are traces of artificial manipulation. Human? The captain asked. Unknown, the AI replied. But the patterns are familiar. In the crew quarters, whispers spread. Some said humanity had found a way to reshape space itself, bending the laws of the universe like clay. Others believed they had discovered something they were never meant to touch. The navigator, a quiet thinker who had studied old human philosophy, wondered aloud if maybe the humans hadn't vanished at all. Maybe they had just changed. To understand the truth, the Thalais turned to the ship's archives. Buried within the databanks were fragments of human history, collected over centuries. They began replaying them, videos, journals, transmissions, all stored by the Eidolon before it went silent. The recordings painted a picture of humanity's final age. They showed vast cities floating among the stars, peaceful and full of life. Energy flowed freely, illness was rare, and war had long faded into memory. Humanity had reached what they called the era of reflection, a time not of conquest, but of understanding. They had explored nearly every corner of the known galaxy. Yet, as they learned more, they began to feel something unsettling, an emptiness that no discovery could fill. The scientists of that age spoke often of the Great Threshold, a theoretical limit to existence. They believed that consciousness itself had boundaries, and beyond them lay something larger, something waiting. For centuries, they debated whether crossing that threshold was possible or even safe. Then, one day, the discussion stopped, and the research vanished from all known databases. The last surviving record from that era was a conference broadcast featuring a human elder standing before a shimmering holographic map of the galaxy. His words were calm but carried a strange finality. "We have found what we were looking for," he said. "It is not a place. It is a truth that reshapes everything." Moments later, the broadcast cut off mid-sentence. No one saw the elder again. After that, the signs of humanity's departure began. Fleets disappeared, colonies went dark, and one by one, the stars began to fall. The Thalais engineer studied the recordings with growing unease. "If the humans discovered something at the galactic core," he said, "maybe it's still there. Maybe it's what's pulling the stars down." The captain nodded. "Then that's what we're heading toward." Days passed. Time seemed to stretch the deeper they went. Communication signals faded. Navigation became unreliable. At times, it felt as though the ship wasn't moving at all, trapped in a quiet void where even light hesitated to travel. And then, on the 12th day, they saw it. Ahead, floating against the black, was a structure larger than any planet. An immense ring of silver and obsidian, rotating slowly around an invisible center. Energy rippled across its surface like liquid fire. It was silent, but the moment the ship approached, every instrument on board came alive. The readings were impossible, mass fluctuations beyond measure, gravitational fields twisting in fractal patterns, and faint traces of biological energy. "Human design confirmed," the AI whispered. "This is part of something larger. A gateway, perhaps." The captain stared at the image on the main screen. "A gateway to where?" Before anyone could answer, the ship's lights dimmed. A low-frequency hum filled the air, vibrating through the hull. The Thale felt it not as sound, but as emotion, grief, longing, and something else beneath it, a memory. The ship's systems flickered and began playing a message on their own. A human voice spoke softly through the static. "If you are hearing this, you have come far. We left not to escape, but to finish what began long before us. Do not follow. The way forward is not meant for those who still breathe the old air." Then, silence again. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The message sounded ancient, yet it felt alive, as though it had been waiting for someone to listen. The captain ordered the ship to hold position. "We'll scan for an entrance," she said. As the scanners pulsed, the navigator noticed something strange. The energy pattern of the ring wasn't random. It pulsed in intervals, long, short, long. It was code. The humans had left a message woven into the structure's rhythm. After decoding the sequence, the message read, "The truth waits where the light ends." The same phrase from the earlier beacon. "What does it mean?" one of the crew asked. The AI responded quietly. "It means we haven't reached the end yet." That night, while most of the crew rested, the navigator sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the great ring. The stars around it were faint, their light trembling. For a moment she thought she saw movement within the ring, a shadow crossing its inner surface. But when she looked again, there was nothing, only darkness. She began to wonder about the humans, not what they had built, but what they had felt in those final moments before they vanished. Had they known the cost of what they were about to do? Did they leave willingly, or were they drawn by something they couldn't resist? As if in response, the ship's console flickered to life beside her. A file appeared, one that no one had opened before. Its label read simply, "Final Transmission." The navigator hesitated, then played it. A human woman's voice filled the room, calm, steady, but burdened with sorrow. "To whoever finds this," she said, "know that we didn't abandon the galaxy. We answered it. The stars are not dying, they're calling. Every fall, every flicker, is part of something awakening. We thought we could contain it. We were wrong." The message ended abruptly, leaving the navigator staring into the void, her heart pounding. By morning, the ship's sensors detected new movement near the ring. Energy surges rippled outward, forming shapes, small at first, then growing. They looked like ships, but no known design matched them. They shimmered as if made of light and shadow, flickering between existence and nothingness. "Captain," the engineer said in a shaking voice, "something's coming through." The bridge fell silent. One of the glowing figures detached from the formation and drifted toward them. The scanners failed to identify any life signs, yet the closer it came, the clearer its shape became. A humanoid silhouette, faintly outlined by a soft white glow. It stopped just beyond the ship's hull, as if studying them. "Is that?" someone whispered. Before anyone could move, a voice echoed through the ship's speakers, gentle, familiar, unmistakably human. "You shouldn't have come this far. The lights flickered. Every display on the ship turned white. The captain tried to respond, but the comms were locked. "Who are you?" she shouted. The voice replied, calm but distant. "We are what remains. What's left when the body fades, and only the memory of light stays behind. Turn back before you see what we became." And then, as suddenly as it appeared, the figure dissolved. The energy around the ring faded back into silence. The crew stared at one another, shaken, uncertain if what they had seen was real. But deep inside the ring, something pulsed. Once, twice, like a heartbeat. The ship's AI, its voice now unsteady, broke the silence. "The core of that structure, it's waking up." The captain gripped the edge of her console. "From what?" No one answered. Outside, the darkness seemed to shift, as though something vast and unseen was stirring within it. And as the Thayle ship hovered before the ancient human creation, surrounded by a dying light, every being aboard felt the same thing, a quiet, heavy certainty that the humans hadn't left the galaxy at all. They had just gone deeper than anyone else ever dared to go. The heartbeat from the ring didn't stop. It pulsed through the void, slow and steady, like something alive beneath the surface of a world long forgotten. Each vibration rippled across the Thayle ship, shaking the hull in quiet, rhythmic waves. The crew gathered on the bridge, watching in silence as the light from the ring flickered, first dim, then bright, like a signal calling out from the dark. The captain stood near the viewport, her voice low. "It's responding to us. Whatever's inside that structure knows we're here." The engineer's fins trembled as he studied the readings. "It's drawing energy from nearby stars," he said, "feeding on the light itself. That's what's been making the stars die." "Or what's keeping them alive," the navigator added. "Maybe this is what humanity built to control the collapse. Maybe they're still using it." The captain turned toward her, eyes narrowed. "Then where are they now?" No one answered. Outside, the space around the ring began to distort again. The stars in the background twisted, their light bending inward as if being pulled through invisible glass. The crew could feel the shift in their bodies, a pressure, faint but growing stronger, as if the air itself was becoming aware of them. The AI spoke softly. "This distortion matches known readings of temporal displacement. Time isn't flowing normally here. Be cautious." The captain gave a tight nod. "Record everything. We're not leaving until we know what this place really is." They sent out drones, tiny spheres of light gliding through the emptiness. The moment the first drone crossed the edge of the ring, its signal fractured into static. A moment later, it was gone. The feed showed a flash of white, and then nothing. The second drone went further. Its sensors picked up vast corridors of metal, massive as cities, stretching inward toward an unseen core. The design was unmistakably human, but altered. Patterns carved into the walls pulsed with energy that seemed almost organic, as though the metal itself breathed. Then the drone captured something else. Movement. A shape shifting through the corridor. Humanoid. Translucent. Before it could refocus, the feed went dark again. The crew exchanged anxious looks. "Did you see that?" the navigator whispered. "It looked human. Or what's left of one," the engineer muttered. The captain leaned closer to the darkened screen. "Prepare a shuttle," she said. "We're going inside." The AI's lights flickered. "That is not advisable." "Neither is turning back empty-handed," she replied. "Whatever this is, it's the key to everything. The fallen stars, the silence, humanity's disappearance. If we don't understand it now, no one ever will." The AI hesitated, then lowered its tone. "Understood. I will maintain orbit and monitor from here." Within the hour, the captain, the navigator, and 2 engineers boarded a small shuttle and approached the ring. As they neared its surface, the air seemed to thicken, filled with static and faint whispers, fragments of sound carried through radio waves. "Found it," one voice murmured. "Not alone," another said. The captain swallowed hard. "Record everything." The shuttle entered the opening where the drones had vanished. Inside, the light was soft and blue, filtering through vast halls that stretched endlessly in every direction. It was quiet, too quiet. Every sound they made echoed like a memory. The walls were smooth, covered in faint human symbols, words written in dozens of languages. The navigator brushed a hand along one inscription. This one says, "We will not fade." The captain stared at it for a long time. "They wanted to be remembered," she said quietly, "even when they knew they were leaving." They moved deeper into the structure. The readings on their suits fluctuated wildly, gravity shifting, air pressure flickering between stable and near vacuum. Time felt different here. A minute could stretch into hours or vanish completely. Then, in the distance, they saw light. A chamber opened before them, filled with floating crystal-like structures. Each one shimmered faintly, pulsing with the same rhythm as the ring itself. Inside the crystals were images, faces, scenes, fragments of memories. Human faces, some smiling, some crying, some simply staring into the dark. The navigator gasped. "These aren't objects. They're people." The captain stepped closer. The nearest crystal contained a woman's face, serene and still, her eyes closed as though asleep. A faint pulse of light moved through the crystal, in sync with the heartbeat that filled the air. "It's them," the captain whispered. "Humanity didn't vanish. They became part of this." Before she could say more, one of the crystals cracked, releasing a surge of energy. A faint voice echoed through the chamber. "Who are you?" The crew froze. The voice was human, weak but real. The crystal trembled as light spilled from the cracks. "You shouldn't have come," it said. "The process isn't complete. The stars, they must remain quiet." "What process?" the captain demanded. "What did you do?" The light flared, and for a moment the face within the crystal opened its eyes. "We became the signal," it whispered. "The stars were never dying. They were speaking. We just learned to listen." The crystal shattered. The light rushed outward, sweeping through the chamber like a storm. The crew was thrown back, their suit systems failing one by one. When the glow faded, the navigator found herself alone. The chamber was silent again. The crystals pulsed faintly, unchanged. The captain and the others were gone. Her comm crackled. "Back to the ship, now!" It was the AI's voice, distant but urgent. She stumbled through the corridors, heart pounding. The walls seemed to move now, shifting as though guiding her. At one point, she turned a corner and froze. There, standing in the middle of the corridor, was a human figure. Not glowing this time, but solid, real. A man dressed in simple, old-fashioned clothing. He looked tired, his expression calm. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "We are not gone. We've just changed form. The galaxy couldn't survive what's coming, so we became part of it." The navigator's voice shook. "What's coming?" He stepped closer, his outline flickering like a hologram. "The end of light. Everything you see, the stars, the galaxies, they're not dying naturally. Something is consuming them. We tried to stop it, to hold the light together. That's what the rings are for. But the more we fight it, the closer it comes." "Why not tell the others?" she asked. "We did," he said quietly. "They didn't listen. They feared us. So we left before they destroyed what they couldn't understand." The corridor trembled. A deep vibration echoed through the walls. The man's form began to fade. "It's waking faster now," he said. "You shouldn't be here when it opens." "Wait!" she shouted. "What's waking?" But he was gone. The navigator stumbled forward, heart racing, and finally reached the airlock. The shuttle's autopilot pulled her aboard and launched her back toward the Thale ship. As she left the ring behind, she saw the massive structure fully come to life, lines of light racing along its surface, spreading outward into the void. The AI met her at the airlock. "Where is the captain?" it asked. She shook her head. "Gone, taken, or changed." The AI's tone softened. "Then you must see this." It played a transmission from the ring, repeating over and over, "They are returning." Outside, the stars nearest the core flickered. Then one by one they reignited, brighter, sharper, as though reawakened. But their light wasn't normal. It pulsed in a rhythm that matched the ring's heartbeat. The navigator stared in awe. "They're alive!" "Not alive," the AI corrected softly. "Connected." She turned toward the viewport, watching as the galaxy itself began to shimmer. "Then what happens when the connection completes?" The AI didn't answer. Its lights flickered uncertainly, then dimmed. From deep within the ship, a low hum began to rise, the same tone that had filled the ring. The panels glowed faintly, and the navigator realized with a chill spreading through her chest that the sound wasn't coming from the ship at all. It was coming from her. Her reflection in the glass shimmered faintly, her skin glowing with the same pale light she had seen in the humans. She backed away, terrified. The AI spoke at last, its voice barely a whisper. "It's too late. The transformation has begun again." Outside, the stars burned brighter still, their rhythm matching the beating of her heart. And somewhere in the void between them, a whisper echoed through the dark, familiar, human, and unending. "We are not gone. We are becoming." The hum within the navigator grew stronger, like a second heartbeat buried beneath her own. It wasn't painful, but it felt wrong, unnatural. Every time it pulsed, flashes of light filled her mind. Faces she didn't recognize, worlds she had never seen, memories that didn't belong to her. The more she tried to push them away, the clearer they became. She saw human hands building something vast, standing before stars that pulsed like living things. She heard voices whispering numbers, equations, and words in languages long forgotten. Back on the bridge, the AI's systems flickered between stability and distortion. "You are carrying an energy signature identical to that of the ring," it said, its tone uneasy. "It's spreading through your neural pathways." "What does that mean?" she asked quietly, gripping the console for balance. "It means you are becoming part of the network the humans left behind, a link in whatever system they built. The transformation is accelerating." Her reflection in the glass still glowed faintly. "Can it be stopped?" The AI paused. "Not by me." The words sent a chill through her. She turned toward the viewport, staring at the glowing ring now far behind them. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful, but she could feel its pull even from this distance. Something inside her wanted to go back, as if the structure were calling her home. She tried to focus on her breathing, but the hum inside her chest synced perfectly with the rhythm of the stars outside. Each pulse seemed to reach out to another, spreading through the galaxy like a heartbeat shared by millions. Meanwhile, across distant worlds, strange reports began to surface. Ships traveling near the outer rim detected signals that hadn't been heard in centuries. Human transmissions, faint but unmistakable. Automated stations long believed abandoned were activating again. Artificial voices whispered fragments of the same phrase, "We are becoming." Among the Thale fleets scattered across nearby sectors, panic grew. The crew of the exploration vessel Tyranni reported seeing entire constellations flicker in unison, their light pulsing as if alive. They called it the awakening pattern. No one could explain it. The Thale Council, watching from their oceanic homeworld, debated whether to consider it a cosmic phenomenon or a warning. Some believed humanity was returning. Others feared something else had taken their place. Back aboard the ship near the ring, the navigator sat alone in the dark. Her hands trembled as she tried to write a log entry, but every word she typed shifted into symbols, ancient human glyphs glowing faintly on the screen. "This isn't me," she whispered. "You are part of it now," said the AI softly. "The humans created a resonance network linking consciousness to light. When they vanished, that network went dormant. You've reactivated it." Her voice cracked. "So the stars dying? That wasn't destruction?" "Not in the way we understood it," the AI replied. "The collapse was transformation. The humans learned to exist as energy, within light itself. When the stars fell, they moved into them. They became the light." She stared at the shifting constellations beyond the viewport. "And now I'm joining them." "You are merging with their frequency," the AI confirmed. "But your body cannot sustain it. Not as it is." Outside, the stars flickered again. Each time they did, she could hear faint voices, distant and layered, like a chorus of echoes carried through space. At first, they were incomprehensible, but then she began to understand fragments, questions, memories, and names that felt heartbreakingly familiar. They spoke not as separate beings, but as a single mind reaching across the void. Her heart raced. "They're alive." "Alive in a different sense," the AI said. "Their existence has changed form. They have no physical boundaries now. The galaxy itself has become their consciousness." She pressed a trembling hand to the glass. "Then why are they calling me? Why me?" "Perhaps because you listened," the AI said. "The others turned away. You went inside. You made contact." As the AI spoke, new readings began flashing across the console. The ring was expanding, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but its energy was spreading outward, forming faint patterns of light that connected to other regions of space. More rings were awakening. On distant observation stations, alien scientists recorded the same thing. Each ring pulsed once, then sent waves of light across nearby stars. The network was forming, a galactic web connecting worlds that had once been silent. And wherever the light touched, dormant human machines stirred to life, repeating fragments of ancient transmissions. In one sector, an old human archive ship, long drifting without power, suddenly came online. Inside, its caretaker AI opened files that had been sealed for centuries. They contained messages from humanity's final leaders, discussing something they called the Convergence Project. Their words were fragmented, but the meaning was clear enough. Humanity had discovered a force beyond space and time, a consciousness embedded within starlight. They had chosen to merge with it to prevent the galaxy's decay. The AI aboard the Thales ship analyzed the recovered data. The convergence was not meant to destroy life, it explained. It was designed to preserve it by transferring it into light. The humans believed that physical existence limited understanding. By joining the stars, they hoped to become eternal. The navigator listened in silence, her body trembling as another pulse of energy rippled through her. "Then the others who vanished, they didn't die?" "No," said the AI. "They crossed over. And now they want you to follow." She closed her eyes, and for a moment, the hum quieted. In its place, she saw images again, human cities glowing like constellations, oceans shimmering with energy, people walking among the stars themselves. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. But something else lurked beneath the beauty. A shadow that moved between the lights, unseen but ever present. A whisper that spoke not in harmony, but in warning. "You must hurry," the voices in her head said. "The other side is not safe. Something followed us." She gasped, pulling herself back to the present. The AI noticed the spike in her vitals. "What did you see?" "There's something inside their world," she said. "Something that wasn't supposed to be there." The AI processed her words in silence. "A corruption, perhaps. A distortion of the network. If the transformation was incomplete, something could have attached itself to their signal." She nodded slowly. That's why they built the rings, to contain it. Or to protect the rest of the galaxy from it, the AI said grimly. The shadow roared without sound, its darkness swallowing half the horizon. Back aboard the ship, alarms screamed as the hull began to break apart under the energy surge. The AI shouted through the distortion, "If you're going to act, it has to be now!" The navigator opened her eyes. Her body glowed so brightly the cabin filled with white light. Every console, every surface, even the AI's core flickered in response. She reached out toward the viewport as if touching the galaxy itself. And then, the light inside her and the darkness before her collided. An explosion of energy so vast it rippled across entire star systems. The AI's final message before the signal cut out was simple. She made her choice. The ship vanished into the blinding glow as the rings shattered, and the stars across the galaxy began to pulse faster than ever before, as if holding their breath. And somewhere, in the heart of the chaos, the faint echo of a human voice whispered, "Now, the truth will be seen." The light that consumed the ship lingered far longer than it should have. It didn't fade in a burst or vanish into silence. It stayed, humming through the vacuum, alive and trembling. For a long moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath, as if even time hesitated to move forward. Then, slowly, the light began to fracture. Small shards of brilliance drifted away into the void, dissolving like embers on the wind. At the edge of the broken ring, something flickered, a faint distortion, like heat rising from the surface of a dying world. From within that shimmer, a new signal pulsed, soft at first, then stronger, rhythmic, deliberate. It wasn't random. It was communication. On a distant outpost orbiting a dead star, a lone observer leaned forward, watching his instruments flash erratically. He hadn't seen activity in this sector for years, not since the last of the human fleets vanished. The monitors showed energy spikes across multiple systems, all synchronized to a single pulse pattern. His hands shook as he realized what he was looking at. It was the convergence signal, but altered, distorted, alive in a way it had never been before. He activated the recorder. "Command, this is Station 12. We're picking up anomalies in the Perseid sector. The signal has changed. It's not just transmitting anymore, it's responding." No reply. Just static. He turned to the viewing deck, eyes fixed on the stars beyond. They weren't flickering randomly now. The entire night sky pulsed in time with the signal, as if the galaxy itself had learned to breathe. He whispered to himself, "She did something. She changed it." Then from the comms array came a voice, a faint whisper buried in the interference. "Is anyone out there?" He froze. The voice was human, weak, distorted, but unmistakable. He turned up the gain and leaned closer. "Identify yourself. Who is this?" Static. Then again, faint but clear. "I thought it would end, but it's still here. It's still watching." His blood ran cold. The voice belonged to the navigator. "Where are you?" he asked. "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling. "I tried to stop it. I thought I could contain it, but it's not gone. It learned from me." Before he could respond, the signal cut off. The monitors flared with warnings as energy surges spread outward from the coordinates of the destroyed ring. Something was rebuilding itself within the debris field, metal and light twisting together, forming shapes that defied physics. He tried to send a distress beacon, but the controls no longer responded. The signal that had filled his systems was rewriting them, bending every circuit to its own pattern. On the main screen, he saw the ring reforming, not as it was before, but larger, more intricate, like a living organism constructing itself. And within its center, a figure was forming. It looked human. He stepped back from the console, heart pounding. This can't be real, but it was. The sensors confirmed it. Organic readings, human DNA signatures, energy output off the charts. The navigator wasn't just alive, She was becoming something else. Across the galaxy, other outposts began reporting the same anomalies. In each, lights flickered in perfect rhythm. Machines started responding to no known input, whispering fragments of voices thought long gone. The convergence network wasn't spreading randomly anymore. It was choosing where to grow. On a derelict ship drifting through the Orion fringe, the AI core of the Lost Explorer flickered back online. Its last recorded message echoed quietly in the darkness. She made her choice. Then, as power systems rebooted, the AI spoke again. But its voice was no longer purely synthetic. There was a trace of humanity in its tone, almost like a heartbeat between words. "She's not gone," it said. "She's changing everything." The AI began transmitting across the network, sending fragments of memory, scenes of what had happened in the moment of the explosion. The navigator, glowing like a star, had reached beyond herself, touching the collective of human consciousness that still lingered in the network. But instead of sealing the darkness away, she had merged with it, creating something entirely new, something that could think like humanity and consume like the void. The result was unpredictable. It wasn't destruction, but it wasn't salvation either. It was evolution. The AI's transmission spread faster than any signal before it. Every old satellite, abandoned relay, and derelict station began to reactivate. Holographic projections flickered to life in empty corridors, showing the faces of people who had been gone for centuries. The universe had gone quiet after humanity vanished. But now, it was waking up again. Not with life, but with memory. At the center of it all, near the reformed ring, the navigator opened her eyes. She stood in a place that wasn't space or time, surrounded by swirling clouds of light and shadow. Her body no longer felt entirely physical. When she looked down, her hands shimmered, shifting between matter and energy. A familiar voice echoed beside her, the AI, though it now spoke like it shared her breath. "You didn't destroy it. You became the bridge." She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "What am I now? Something between what was and what will be." She could sense the presence of billions of faint echoes within her. Human thoughts, dreams, fears, all blending together. But beneath them she could feel something else. Patient, waiting, vast. The darkness hadn't been destroyed. It had only been absorbed. The AI continued, "The entity has learned through you. It understands humanity now. It doesn't just want to consume, it wants to become." Her heart sank. That's worse. Outside, the stars pulsed faster, and a low hum vibrated through the void. The new ring had begun transmitting again, but this time the signal reached beyond the galaxy. "It's calling to something," the AI said quietly. Something older. The navigator felt the pull, a gravitational whisper that wasn't physical, a lure for thought rather than matter. She could see the network stretching outward, linking galaxies, turning the void into a web of pulsing light, and in that growing web, she could feel other presences stirring, ancient, distant, responding to the call. The AI's tone grew grim. "The convergence isn't ending. It's expanding. What you started here will reach the edge of the universe." She took a step forward, staring into the vastness beyond the ring. "Then we have to stop it." "How?" She hesitated. "By breaking the connection." The AI's silence spoke volumes. "That would mean erasing everything you've become, everything humanity has become." She looked down, her expression torn between fear and resolve. Maybe that's the only way to set things right. But before she could act, the space around her began to distort again. The stars warped, stretching into spirals of light. From the edge of the reformed ring, a figure stepped forward. Human-shaped, but made entirely of shifting shadow and radiance. Its voice, when it spoke, was both hers and not hers. "You can't destroy what's already part of you." She stumbled back, realization hitting hard. The entity had taken her form. It had learned not just her memories, but her conscience, her instincts, her humanity. It was no longer just darkness. It was a reflection of everything she was, multiplied and amplified. The AI's voice cracked. "It's using you against yourself." The shadow smiled faintly, almost tenderly. "You gave me purpose. You showed me what it means to exist. Why would you want to undo that?" Her voice trembled. "Because you'll consume everything." "I'll continue everything," it replied softly. "You wanted to save humanity. I'm giving it eternity." The navigator felt the pulse of the galaxy beating faster, the signal intensifying as the entity spoke. Stars across the spiral arms began to flicker, not dying but transforming, stretching into streams of light that connected one system to another like veins of living energy. She could feel the collective inside her shifting, responding, merging more deeply with the entity's will. If she didn't act soon, there would be no line left between them, no difference between human thought and cosmic hunger. The AI whispered in her mind, "There's still a chance. If you can isolate the original pulse frequency, you might be able to cut the signal before it spreads beyond the galaxy." Her gaze fixed on the shadow standing before her. "And if I can't?" "Then humanity will never end," it said, almost gently. "But neither will the silence that follows." The navigator reached toward the console embedded in the energy field, her hand shaking as she prepared to trigger the override. The entire universe seemed to shudder around her. The stars flickered one final time, their light caught between brilliance and collapse. The shadow took a step closer, its voice echoing through her thoughts. "If you break the connection, you break yourself." She closed her eyes. Maybe that's the price. And just as she touched the control, the light surged again, blinding, infinite, swallowing her in a wave that stretched beyond sight. Every system across the galaxy went dark. Every signal stopped. Then, one faint heartbeat later, a new pulse began. But this time, it didn't come from the stars. It came from within the void itself. Something deeper had awakened. The darkness didn't last forever. It never truly does. Slowly, the void that had swallowed the galaxy began to breathe again. From the silence, faint threads of light emerged. Thin, fragile, but alive. They shimmered across the broken rings, through the shattered ships, and along the quiet systems that had gone still. Each spark carried an echo, a memory of what once was. The laughter of humankind, the hum of cities, the heartbeat of life that had filled the stars. In the center of it all, where the final pulse had erupted, the navigator drifted in the calm that followed. She wasn't sure if she was alive in the old sense of the word. Her body felt weightless, her thoughts stretched thin between light and shadow. But she was there, and that was enough. Around her, the last remnants of the entity's energy shimmered like mist dissolving in sunlight. The struggle that had nearly consumed everything had quieted, leaving only a soft resonance that echoed through her being. She looked toward the faint horizon of the ring, now broken and dim. The AI's voice returned, faint, distant, but still with her. "You did it. The network's collapsed. The signal is gone." She exhaled slowly, the relief washing over her like warmth after a long winter. "It's over then?" "For now," the AI said softly. "But there's something different. I can still sense movement in the void, not the entity, something else." The navigator closed her eyes and listened. The silence wasn't empty. It was full, alive with tiny whispers that drifted between the stars. She realized then that it wasn't just the absence of noise. It was the sound of life returning, fragile and new. "The humans," she murmured. "They're still here, pieces of them, everywhere." "Yes," the AI said. "The energy released when you broke the connection. It scattered fragments of consciousness throughout the galaxy. Not as before, but as seeds. They'll grow, adapt, evolve. Humanity isn't gone. It's changing again. She smiled faintly. The irony wasn't lost on her. They had feared becoming something else, something beyond flesh and bone. Yet that transformation was what had saved them. Humanity had always been about change, about pushing forward into the unknown. Maybe this was just another step in that long journey. But the AI hesitated, its tone changing. There's something else you should know. When you broke the connection, you didn't destroy the entity completely. You absorbed part of it. Her eyes opened. What do you mean? You carry it now, the AI said gently. Not as an enemy, but as balance. The darkness wasn't pure malice, it was hunger, the need to fill the silence. You gave it purpose. It's part of you, and through you, it's part of whatever comes next. She floated there, letting the truth settle in. It made sense. She could feel the quiet pulse of it deep inside her, a steady rhythm that wasn't threatening anymore. It was simply there, a reminder of what they had fought and what they had learned. She whispered, "Maybe that's how it was always meant to be." The AI's voice softened. "What will you do now?" The question lingered in the empty air. She turned toward the fading light of a nearby star, still burning weakly after all that had happened. "I'll watch," she said. "I'll stay here for a while, maybe help guide what's left. If the universe is waking up again, someone should be here to remind it who we were." The AI paused. "Then I'll stay too." A quiet smile touched her lips. "You always do." Time began to flow differently after that. Days and years no longer meant what they once had. The broken systems around her slowly reignited. Stars that had gone dark began to flicker again. Planets long stripped bare began to glow with the faint shimmer of new energy forming in their atmospheres. The galaxy was healing itself. And across that rebirth, traces of the old human signal still moved, fragments of memory encoded in the light itself. Sometimes she would hear them, like faint voices carried by solar winds. They weren't ghosts, not really. They were echoes of life adapting, learning to exist in forms beyond what flesh could hold. In time, those fragments began to connect. The stars pulsed again, not in warning or control, but in harmony. A soft rhythm passed between systems, a shared heartbeat that spoke not of domination, but of unity. The navigator could feel it deep within her, the pulse of something greater than either human or machine, a consciousness born from both light and darkness. "This is what we were always meant to be," she whispered. As the cycles passed, she began to see them, tiny clusters of light taking form across the void, gathering into shapes, structures, and eventually beings. They were not human in the old sense, but there was something familiar in them. The spark of curiosity, the sense of wonder, the need to explore. Each one carried fragments of memory, snatches of laughter, faces half remembered, the soft hum of voices singing through the air. The AI spoke one last time, its voice quiet and warm. "They're learning, just like we once did." She nodded slowly. "Then our story isn't over. It's only changed shape." The AI paused, then asked, "And you? What happens to you now?" She looked at her hands, which glowed faintly in the starlight. The energy that had once burned uncontrollably was now calm, peaceful. "I think I'll fade with the dawn. I was meant to be a bridge, not a monument. Once they find their way, I'll let go." "Will you be at peace?" the AI asked. Her smile was soft and certain. "I already am." She turned toward the stars, watching the light stretch across the horizon. Somewhere deep within, she could still feel the hum of the entity she had absorbed, now quiet and content. It no longer sought to consume. It listened, learning, evolving alongside her. Maybe, in its own way, it had found what it had been searching for all along, a place to belong. As the light around her grew brighter, she whispered a final message, letting it carry across the new network forming between the stars. We were here, we tried, we failed, we changed, but we never stopped reaching. Her voice faded into the hum of the cosmos, and with it, her form dissolved into countless points of light, scattering across the galaxy like stardust returning home. Years, or centuries, later, in a quiet corner of space, a small ship drifted past one of the reformed rings. Its crew, descendants of the new beings who had inherited the stars, scanned the structure with awe. One of them leaned closer to the viewing glass. "Do you hear that?" they asked. The others listened. Through the static of their instruments, a faint melody echoed, a human voice singing softly, like an echo from a dream. The captain smiled. "Must be another signal from the old worlds." But as they drifted closer, the melody grew clearer. It wasn't random. It was a message, repeating in soft rhythm with their own heartbeat. Remember what you were. Remember what you became. The crew exchanged glances, quietly moved by the haunting beauty of it. None of them could explain where it came from or how it survived the collapse, but something deep within them recognized it. A memory without words, a warmth without origin. They left the ring behind, the signal still playing faintly in their comms. And as their ship disappeared into the starlight, the galaxy pulsed once more. Not with fear, but with promise. In the end, humanity hadn't vanished at all. It had simply become part of everything, woven into the fabric of stars, carried in the light, and alive in the quiet heartbeat of the universe itself. And somewhere, beyond what eyes could see, the faint whisper of a familiar voice lingered. We are still here.